Navy virtually destroyed, Japan asked for peace. Aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, on Sunday, September the 2nd, 1945, the most horrible war in history came to its complete and formal end.
Korea. While it might be one of the strongest economies today, the same could not be said 80 years ago. Korea was impoverished beyond belief. It was a third world nation that was easily colonized by the Japanese in 1910, which it stayed under for 30 years until Imperial Japan ceased to exist after World War II. The nation was expected to successfully build itself back up through self-governing and unity. But there was just one slight problem: division. After the end of World War II, Korea was seen by the United States and Soviet Union as a land of opportunity for spreading ideologies. Over the course of 5 years, the two nations developed as the communists in the north formed the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or DPRK, and in the south, educated officials created the Republic of Korea, ROK. On June 25, 1950, the North Korean leader Kim Il-sung invaded South Korea. Despite their valiant efforts, the South Koreans were simply overpowered by the overwhelming arsenal that Kim had received from Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong. As a result, Kim captured Seoul in a matter of 3 days, and in a matter of weeks captured all the way to the southernmost city, Busan. Meanwhile, 16 countries in the United Nations, including the US, sent many troops to stop the communist forces. Though the United Nations forces entered the war with a half-hearted attitude, they began realizing that the North Koreans were more difficult than they had expected, as they were left cornered by communist forces. South Koreans and United Nations forces were hoping for a miracle. Quite unexpectedly, the General of all armed forces, General Douglas MacArthur, proposed a plan known as the Incheon Landing. In it, the UN forces would land in Incheon deep in North Korean territory and create a line of defense along Incheon to capture the territory taken all the way back to the Busan perimeter. In it, the UN forces would land in Incheon deep in North Korean territory and create a line of defense along Incheon to capture the territory taken all the way back to the Busan perimeter. Although it was risky, the plan proved successful. On September 15, 1950, Incheon was recaptured. This began the campaign of recapturing land and forcing communists north all the way to China. Within a few days, the UN forces pushed the communist forces back to Manchuria in China. However, China, feeling threatened, supplied the communist forces with 300,000 troops who were able to force the UN forces back to the 38th parallel, where the two nations had basically started. For 2 more years they fought, but because there was no progress, on July 27, 1953, both nations signed the Korean Armistice Agreement calling for a ceasefire indefinitely. To this day, though there were a few aggressions, the Armistice Agreement is still in effect. In all, there were about 5 million deaths, more than half of which were Korean civilians.